History is full of drawn-out conflicts, years upon years of bloody struggle. But what about the wars that ended not in years, not in months, even not in days, but in minutes? Can you imagine a war that lasted less time than your commute to work? In this series, we're diving headfirst into the rabbit hole of history's shortest wars, those conflicts that, despite their brevity, sent shockwaves across the globe. Fasten your seatbelts because we're about to embark on a historical thrill ride, exploring wars that prove sometimes truth is stranger and far more terrifying than fiction. It's almost anathema to the way we think about war, isn't it? The sheer scale of it, the logistics, the movement of men and material, the clash of ideologies, the grinding attrition, it all speaks to a process that takes time. It's a meat grinder that chews up weeks, months, years. And yet history throws us these curveballs, these conflicts that seem to defy the very physics of warfare. Think about it. How can a war, with all its inherent complexities, be condensed into such a short time frame? It seems impossible, ludicrous even. We instinctively search for a catch, a missing piece of the puzzle. But what if the very act of trying to fit these events into our preconceived notions of warfare is where we go wrong? These weren't just skirmishes, mind you, brief encounters of little consequence. No, these were wars with declarations, with opposing sides, with tangible stakes. And yet, they were over practically before they began. One moment can change everything. One decision, one spark, can ignite a powder keg, or, conversely, extinguish a smoldering fuse. These weren't just wars, they were historical pressure cookers, where the intensity of conflict was amplified by the constraints of time. Let's start with what might be the most famous example of a short war, one for the record books, the Anglo-Zanzibar War of 1896. This conflict, though brief, is packed with intrigue and drama. Now when you hear Zanzibar, you might picture exotic spices, bustling markets, and perhaps even Freddie Mercury's birthplace. This island has always been a melting pot of cultures and histories, and you wouldn't be wrong. But there's more to Zanzibar than meets the eye. In 1896, Zanzibar was also a key player in the geopolitical chess game of East Africa, caught in the crosshairs of British imperial ambition. The British Empire was expanding, and Zanzibar was a strategic point. The war itself was sparked by a rather straightforward succession crisis. The pro-British Sultan died, and a fellow by the name of Khalid bin Bargash, who wasn't exactly the Queen's cup of tea, decided to take the throne for himself. Ultimatums were issued, deadlines were drawn, and tensions escalated quickly. A British fleet assembled in the harbor, guns trained on the Sultan's palace. The air was thick with anticipation. At precisely 9 o'clock a.m. on August 27, 1896, as the ultimatum expired, the first British shells began to rain down on the palace. Within 38 minutes the Sultan's flag was lowered, the palace was a smoldering ruin, reduced to rubble in a matter of minutes, and Khalid was scrambling for asylum in the German consulate. His dreams of ruling Zanzibar were dashed. Just like that, the Anglo-Zanzibar War, the shortest war in recorded history, was over. It was a swift and decisive victory for the British. The Anglo-Zanzibar War, despite its brevity, serves as a stark reminder that even the shortest conflicts can have long-lasting consequences. The impact of this brief war echoed through the years, shaping the future of Zanzibar and its people. Chapter 3. The Indo-Pakistani War of 1971, a two-week conflict with global implications. Now let's shift gears and journey to the Indian subcontinent for a conflict that, while not as short as the Anglo-Zanzibar War, still unfolded with breathtaking speed, the Indo-Pakistani War of 1971. This war, lasting just 13 days, was one of the shortest wars in history, yet its impact was profound and far-reaching. This wasn't some border skirmish, but a full-blown war that reshaped the map of South Asia and had ripple effects felt across the globe. The conflict drew the attention of major world powers, including the United States, the Soviet Union, and China, each with their own strategic interests in the region. The seeds of this conflict were sown in the bloody partition of British India in 1947, the birth of two nations, India and Pakistan, amidst communal violence that claimed millions of lives. The partition left deep scars and unresolved issues that would fester for decades. Fast forward to 1971, and tensions were reaching a boiling point over the status of East Pakistan, a region separated from West Pakistan by 1,000 miles of Indian territory. The cultural, linguistic, and economic disparities between the two regions had created a volatile situation. East Pakistan, home to a predominantly Bengali population, chafed under the rule of West Pakistan. The people of East Pakistan felt marginalized and oppressed, leading to widespread discontent and demands for autonomy. A brutal crackdown by the Pakistani army on Bengali civilians ignited a full-scale humanitarian crisis, sending millions of refugees fleeing across the border into India. The scale of the crisis was unprecedented, with refugee camps overflowing and resources stretched thin. India, already at odds with Pakistan, was now facing a humanitarian catastrophe and a potential regional war. The influx of refugees put immense pressure on India's resources and infrastructure, compelling the Indian government to take decisive action. On December 3, 1971, the situation exploded. The geopolitical tensions and humanitarian crisis reached a tipping point, leading to an all-out war. Pakistan launched preemptive airstrikes on Indian airfields and the war was on. The Indian military responded with a coordinated and strategic offensive, showcasing their military prowess. What followed was a 2-week blitzkrieg, a lightning campaign by the Indian military that demonstrated both tactical brilliance and a deep understanding of the battlefield. The Indian forces advanced rapidly, overwhelming Pakistani defenses. Within 2 weeks, Pakistani forces in the east were surrounded and outmaneuvered. The swift and decisive Indian victory led to the creation of a new nation, Bangladesh, marking a significant geopolitical shift in the region. The war solidified India's position as the dominant military power in South Asia and sent a clear message to the world about its resolve. The conflict not only altered the political landscape, but also had lasting implications for international relations and regional stability. Chapter 4, The Six-Day War, a decisive victory that still resonates. Our next stop takes us to the Middle East, to a conflict etched in the annals of military history for its sheer audacity and its lasting impact on one of the world's most volatile regions, the Six-Day War of 1967. This brief yet intense conflict saw Israel facing off against a coalition of Arab states, including Egypt, Jordan, and Syria, in a battle that would reshape the geopolitical landscape of the Middle East. It was a war that pitted Israel against a coalition of Arab states, a conflict that transformed the geopolitical landscape of the Middle East and continues to shape the region to this day. The rapid and decisive nature of the conflict left an indelible mark on the history of the region, influencing political and military strategies for decades to come. Tensions had been simmering for years between Israel and its Arab neighbors. The roots of this conflict can be traced back to the establishment of the State of Israel in 1948, which was met with immediate resistance from the surrounding Arab nations. The 1948 Arab-Israeli War had left scars that ran deep, and the subsequent years saw a series of border clashes and escalating rhetoric. These skirmishes and the hostile political climate created an atmosphere of perpetual tension and mistrust. By 1967, the situation was a powder keg, and all it took was a single spark to ignite it. The region was on edge, with both sides preparing for the possibility of an all-out war. That spark came in the form of a series of miscalculations and misunderstandings. Diplomatic efforts failed, and military posturing escalated the situation beyond the point of no return. Egypt, emboldened by Soviet support and convinced that Israel was planning an attack, closed the Straits of Tiran to Israeli shipping, a move considered an act of war by Israel. This blockade was a critical point of contention, as it effectively cut off Israel's access to vital maritime routes. On June 5, 1967, Israel launched a preemptive strike that would become the stuff of military legend. This bold move was aimed at neutralizing the immediate threat posed by the Egyptian forces. Operation Focus, as it was known, was a daring and brilliantly executed plan that targeted the Egyptian Air Force while it was still on the ground. The precision and effectiveness of this operation were unprecedented. In a matter of hours, the Israeli Air Force decimated the Egyptian Air Force, achieving air superiority and effectively blinding the Egyptian military. This initial success set the stage for the rapid advances that followed. With the skies clear, Israeli ground forces surged across the Sinai Peninsula, catching the Egyptian army off guard and routing them in a series of swift and decisive engagements. The speed and efficiency of the Israeli advance were remarkable. By the time the UN-brokered ceasefire came into effect on June 10th, Israel had achieved a stunning victory, tripling the territory under its control. This victory not only altered the map of the Middle East, but also had profound implications for the future of the region. Chapter 5. The Echo of Minutes, History's Long Shadow. These are just a few examples, snapshots in time of wars that, despite their brevity, left an indelible mark on history. The Anglo-Zanzibar War, a 38-minute clash that speaks volumes about the often brutal realities of colonialism. The Indo-Pakistani War of 1971, a 2-week conflict that redrew the map of South Asia and highlighted the human cost of partition. And the Six-Day War, a conflict that, in less than a week, transformed the Middle East and continues to cast a long shadow over the region. What's fascinating and perhaps a little terrifying is how these seemingly isolated events ripple through time, their effects echoing down through the decades. The decisions made in those crucial minutes, the actions taken, the lives lost, they all contributed to shaping the world we live in today. It's a sobering thought, isn't it? That the course of history, the fate of nations, can hinge on moments of such fleeting brevity. We tend to think of the great events of history as these lumbering behemoths, these epoch-defining shifts that unfold over generations. But as we've seen, sometimes history operates with a speed that defies our very understanding of time. It makes you wonder, doesn't it, about the things we miss, the seemingly insignificant events of today that might in some future history book be given their own chapter. And when that day comes, when the world holds its breath as events unfold at breakneck speed, remember these short wars?